Have you ever felt yourself drowning in a long list of things to do and just felt overwhelmed? Well, you're not alone. That seemingly endless list of to-dos, the emails, the appointments, the bills, the errands, the things that you swore you handled last week and just can't get around to it. All of that stuff can suck the life out of you. It can make you feel like a failure for not completing it. And the drain that it leaves is real. But I want to ask you a different question. I'm not going to ask you how you manage your life better, give you a productivity hack. I want to ask you this. When's the last time that you did something, anything, that wasn't on some sort of to-do list? Physical, mental, whatever. But you know, I have to do this. So something that was just for you, not as self-care, as a chore, not exercise because you're supposed to. Something that you did because you actually wanted to, because it feeds something inside of you, and maybe because it has nothing to do with getting things done. Because I think that the reason a lot of us feel like we're drowning isn't just because the list is too long. It's that the list is the only thing that's left for us to do. So you're so busy managing your life that we may not get around to actually live any of our lives. And that's what's actually draining you. So let me be clear about something first. Now, the overwhelm is real, and I'm not dismissing it. The amount of stuff that we're expected to manage in a normal day is absurd. Every single day in your life now requires more decisions than it used to. Just groceries, banking, scheduling, communication. Everything has an account, a password, interface, an update. You're basically running an IT department, an HR department, and the finance department of a small company called your life. And you didn't necessarily apply for the job in that way. So yes, you're not lazy or undisciplined, but the volume of obligations of modern life starts really putting you in a legitimately more complicated spot than any other generation before us has had to deal with. So what I've noticed in myself after my layoff, and almost every other person that I've talked to who feels this way, is that the volume is part of it, but the volume isn't necessarily what's killing us. What's doing that is that the to-do list and the things that we have to do, whether or not they're in list form, ate everything else. The obligations that expanded until they filled every hour, and the things that used to fuel us, like our hobbies, being quiet, the stuff that we did just because we loved it, just got pushed out. Not all at once, but slowly, until one day you look up and you realize you can't remember the last time that you did something that made you feel like yourself. And maybe that's the real problem, not the list. The fact that the list is all that there is the problem. So think about your day like a bank account, and every obligation is a withdrawal. Emails, withdrawals, errands, withdrawal, work, withdrawal, managing the house, the kids, the logistics of just existing, withdrawal, withdrawal, withdrawal. Now, what are the deposits? So sleep is maintenance. It's not a deposit. Sleep keeps the account from going into red. I mean, like the actual deposits. The things that put something back in, the things that fill you up, not just the things that stop the bleeding. And for some people, that's reading. For some people, it's making something with their hands. For some people, it's walking in the woods with no podcast, no phone, no agenda. Because sometimes if you're walking in the woods and you've got the podcast or the phone and the agenda, you're missing the point of walking in the woods. For some people, it's playing an instrument, maybe badly, in their living room. For some people, it's sitting still and thinking about nothing for 20 minutes. Yoga, workouts, whatever it is. Whatever it is for you, when's the last time that you did it? I mean, here's what I've learned. And I learned it in the most uncomfortable way after I got laid off. When I was working as a VP, I told myself I didn't really have time for that stuff. I had a job, I had responsibilities. So the things that filled me, the hobbies, the reading, the quiet, it became sort of a luxury. And I don't know, maybe that was for people who had time. And I would get to it later, someday, when things calm down. Well, things never really got calm. Things always stayed busy. And then when the layoff hit, I realized something that really shook me. I wasn't just out of a job, I was out of a self. Because I had spent years making withdrawals with no deposits. I'd been running on obligations for so long that when the obligations stopped, there was nothing underneath. And I honestly don't even know what I like anymore. I didn't know what fed me. I had let that part of me go dark because I was just too busy being productive. And that's what I see happening to so many people right now. You're not drowning because you're weak. You're drowning because the well is dry. You've been pouring out for so long with nothing going back in that there's nothing left to pour. And then you beat yourself up for being empty. That's not a discipline program. That's a starvation problem. So what I started doing after the layoff, and I'm going to be honest, it felt ridiculous at first because we live in a culture where I spend an hour reading for no reason feels like, I don't know, I can't do that. I have to listen to it on Audible while I'm doing something. But stay with me. The first thing I did was to stay still. And I don't mean meditate. I started building pockets of times where I wasn't consuming anything. I wasn't producing anything. I wasn't solving anything. I was just sitting in my own thoughts for just 10 minutes. And I'm looking at the windows at the bleak winter. So I decided to just be still. And here's what surprised me. It was quite uncomfortable. Because when you've been running for years, then that stillness, it just feels wrong. And your brain keeps saying you should be doing something. And that guilt, well, that's the old story talking. The one that says that your worth comes from your output. And you have to sit through that discomfort before the stillness starts to actually do its work. But when it does, it's like someone turns the lights back on and you start hearing your own thoughts again. Not the to-do list, but the real thoughts, the ones that you actually care about, the ones that you actually want, the ones that you have underneath all that noise. The second thing is that I brought back something that I love and gave it zero expectation. For me, it was thinking about thinking, wrestling with big questions, thinking about philosophy, thinking about meaning. And for 20 years, I treated that like a guilty pleasure, something when the real work was done on the sidelines, just a book club reading. But after the layoff, I gave it space in actual daylight, not as a side project, not as content, but just because it's what I love to do. And it makes me feel like myself. And here's what I want you to hear. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be philosophical. It can be gardening, drawing, cooking, singing, dancing, watching a funny movie, making something, unmaking something. The only requirement is that it's yours, that it's not an obligation to somebody else, that it's not a self-improvement project, not something that you're doing because somebody told you that it would help you to optimize your life. Although I might be telling you right now that this is how to optimize your life. But something you do because you're doing it, because you feel like a person and not a task manager. And the third thing, and this is the one that took me the longest, I started protecting that time the way that I used to protect work meetings. I don't mean I color-coded, blocked it off on a calendar. I mean, I just blocked it. I stopped apologizing for that time. I stopped treating it as the thing that gets cut first when the list gets long. You know, like when you get too busy, what are the things you're going to get rid of? Typically the things that are less important, which are really the things that actually end up feeding us. But that's what we do, right? And before you know it, the hobby goes, the quiet goes, the walk goes, and then we wonder why we feel like shells who we used to be. And here's what I figured out is that thing, the hobby, the stillness, the whatever it is that feeds you thing, it's actually not a luxury. It's the thing that makes everything else work. You cannot show up for your job, your family, your responsibilities, your life if there's no one home inside. And if you spend every hour on the to-do list and 0 hours on the person doing the to-do list, eventually there's going to be nobody left to do it. And the to-do list, honestly, is always going to be there and it's never going to be done. And that's a fact. The question is, are you still going to be there? Will you still be the person underneath? The one who remembers what they love, what they think, what they care about? Or will you just be a very efficient machine that completes all tasks and feels nothing? Now, I know why this is hard, and I want to name it so that you can see it for what it is, because we live in a culture that treats busyness like a badge of honor. How are you? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm ridiculously busy. Overwhelmed. So busy. And we say it like it's an accomplishment instead of a confession. We internalize the idea that your output is your worth. So if you're producing, you matter. And if you're sitting still, Why? What's wrong with you? Why are you falling behind? This makes me nuts. The culture sells you both the problem and the solution. It fills your life with obligation and then sells you the productivity app to manage them. It drains you and then sells you the self-care solution to help you recover. We never talk about the obvious move, which is maybe this: do less. Protect the space that feeds you instead of optimizing the space that empties you. I know that's easier said than done. Trust me, I spent a lot of years doing exactly the opposite of what I'm telling you, which is why I am now sitting here able to tell you because the shell realizes, oh shit, save yourself before it's too late, because the recovery, yeah, it takes a minute. And so I get it. And there's bills and kids and jobs and real obligations that don't go away because you decided to take up watercoloring. And I'm definitely not telling you to quit your job and move to a cabin, although I haven't met a single person that's not their dream. I'm not telling you to do any of those things. What I am telling you to do is to find 30 minutes. That's it. Just 30 minutes when you are not contemplating a task, not scrolling, not consuming content, not optimizing one damn thing. Just 30 minutes where you're doing something, doing nothing that puts something back into you, and to just not apologize for it. Because 30 minutes isn't selfish. That's the thing that keeps you alive inside the life that you've built. And without it, you're just a machine that's running until it breaks. So you're not lazy, you're just starving. And the solution isn't a better system for managing the list. The solution is remembering that you are more than the list. You are the person with a mind that likes to think about things, with hands that like to make things, with the soul that needs stillness to hear itself. And every minute that you spend feeding that person is a minute you spend becoming someone who can actually handle the rest of it. Not from depletion, but from fullness. So do the thing. Do the thing that you keep putting off. The thing that you say that you'll get to when things slow down. Because things are not going to slow down unless they do in a terrible way. And then you find yourself in the situation of wondering, now how do I fill my time? But you can still choose to be the person inside of all of that speed. You can choose to find a bit of time for yourself. And that is how you just untangle your life. Not by doing more, but by remembering who you are when you're not doing anything at all. I'll see you in the next one.